Hi, and welcome to the So Many Things YouTube channel. I'm Tim, your host. Here you get to sew with the boys, quilt with the boys, embroider with the boys, and of course, mostly have some fun, and you might learn something along the way. Stay tuned! Hi, welcome to Embroidery with the Boys. So you're looking at doing a little embroidery and you want to get a machine and you want to know about supplies. Well, machines are one of those personal things. It's a wide range of machines in the budgets from $500 to $15,000 plus. You're going to need to probably narrow that down when you start shopping. You should make a list of what you're looking for in your embroidery machine and pay attention to things like hoop size, color of screen, do I want black and white? How many font styles do I want built in? How does it interface with my computer? How do I get patterns from the internet to my machine? Things like that all have a bearing on how easy the machine is to use. But today we're going to talk about the supplies that you need to do embroidery. So there's lots of confusing things out there about what you need to get when you first get your machine. I'm going to tell you, do not run out and buy a $300 pack of everything you need for embroidery, because most of that stuff you're probably not going to use in the first probably 6 months to a year. Unless you sat down immediately and started doing embroidery every day for 8 hours. Oh, that's ridiculous. Well, let's make this a little simpler for you. And what can you do with an embroidery machine? Well, you can do embroidery logos like this. You can do woven pieces like this. Now I say woven because this is actually an embroidery by section, and then you're applying the pieces together. This particular pattern has little buttons and eyelets that you button to make this entire piece. So yes, this entire piece is done in the embroidery mode. No fabric, no sewing, just let the machine run. So you see, there are things out there that you can play with, but we want to know about things like stabilizers, thread, and needles. So let's start with needles because they're kind of easy to work with. We actually have two sizes of our standard embroidery needles from the Schmetz company. There are embroidery needles from other companies as well, but I like to use the embroidery needles because they're easily marked and they're easily identifiable. We have a size 75 for our lighter weight and medium weight fabrics, and we have a size 90 for our heavier weight fabrics. Now, these needles are embroidery needles. That means they have a little bit of extra care when they're made, for one thing by Schmetz, but also because we want our threads to slide through the eye of the needle. So a little bit more care on how they're made, a little different point for embroidery, makes them that specialty needle for doing your embroidery work. You'll find other embroidery needles from other companies. Don't be afraid to look. You know, they're out there, but you know what? These work pretty well for me and they run on most of my machines. So let's talk about thread for a minute. Thread comes in a variety of different spools. These two kind of look the same, but this is a metallic and this is a regular polyester. This is a larger spool of polyester on a different size cone. Now, cones like this and like this may not always fit in your embroidery machine properly, so you might need to look at getting that extra stand. A lot of machines have a stand that mounts behind the machine or one that sits off to the side so the thread can come up and go into the machine cleanly and smoothly. Now, some places you buy a machine, they're going to give you like 50, 100, 150, 200 spools of thread. That sounds great, but what about buying thread in colors that you know are going to work for what you want to use? A smaller pack like this is easier to work with, and you can test the thread on your machine and find out if it works. Now, small spools like this are available individually, not just from this company, but from other companies. So you might want to try one and make sure it runs in your machine properly. So it doesn't matter which brand you're buying, the machine is going to tell you, oh, I like this brand, or this brand runs with no problem. Let the machine tell you. So the next thing you're going to want to look at is stabilizers. Stabilizers are very important. They add stability to the fabric to support your stitches for that embroidery pattern. Stabilizers come in a myriad of different weights and types, and you're going to need to look through them to find the ones that best suit the purpose for what you're going to be working on. Now the purpose is, do I want it to dissolve? Do I want it to fade away? Do I want it to be a no-show? Do I just want to tear it away? Do I want to cut it away? All of those different types of stabilizers have a purpose when you're doing embroidery. So my short little list here on the first page is just going to give you an idea of what's available there. This is just a sample pack of what's available in our product lines for embroidery stabilizers, from everything from wash away to cutaways to tearaways. But as a beginner, you're probably going to need to start with a tearaway, a cutaway, and maybe a no-show type of mesh, something that's going to be invisible when you're doing embroidery. Now, a cutaway means that you do your embroidery and you cut off the excess. A tearaway means that you do your embroidery and you tear away the excess. It should tear cleanly around the edges of your embroidery. Now you have to be careful using tearaway. You don't want it to pull your stitches out of your fabric. It is possible that you've matched too heavy of a tearaway with too light of a fabric and heavy of a stitching. The idea is that if you need to use 2 layers of light tearaway stabilizer, that's better than using a heavy one because you can tear each layer easily without having to have too much stress on the fabric or on the embroidery that you just spent an hour and a half doing. So you want to keep that in mind when you're looking at stabilizers. Hope you found the video helpful. Thanks for watching.